Jobs and internships, my friends. Jobs and internships was the motto and the platform when E and Bhavik and I were running about a year ago. And the plan was, and our goal was, to improve things from last year, and with the aim toward getting jobs and internships. And we have two of last year's directors here at some point today. Jay's here, and Jay and GR can evaluate how well we do today to see if we improved. But I think we're doing well. A few numbers. 80 consultants are going to be here today. 40% more students than last year. 25 or more firms. More prep sessions, as everyone knew. And so I think we made a good start. And we also have a great keynote speaker. And he's way more accomplished than Consulting Day. He's going to talk with you about his career, so I'm not going to talk about that. His name is Brad Loftus. He's the senior partner and managing director at BCG. We thank him for committing really early to this. That made my life a lot easier. And thanks to Eric for connecting us. So, without further ado, Brad Loftus.
Thank you. How's everyone doing today? Great. All right, so the introduction, we're going to talk about internships. I'm not talking about internships. I'm going to talk about careers and what it's like to get a start in consulting. So I'm probably skipping over a stage or two, but I want you to know what you're getting yourselves into when you go off to that internship. And want to talk about a couple things today. I'll give you a little bit of background on me. I won't spend too much time on it. A little bit of view of what I see out in the consulting world right now, not too long. And then a few ideas of, how do you get a good start in consulting? They will apply to your internship. They will apply more to your long-term career, but that's what we'll do. I plan to talk for about 30 minutes, maybe a little longer. Some of you in this room know me. Some know me very well, like Mr. Young here. You probably don't want to listen to me prattle on for 45 minutes straight. So interrupt me, heckle me, say I don't understand, say that's complete BS. That'll make it more fun. If you want, throw something. But let's make this slightly interactive. Not anything too heavy. I don't dodge as well as I used to. Sound good? Okay. I already basically did this. A little bit about me. I'm going to skip the BCG advertisement, candidly. If you want to find out about BCG, plenty of sources. And plenty of people will try to sell you all on us, but I'll skip that. A little bit on the consulting environment, and like I said, thoughts on the career. First, I'll introduce you to me. I don't know where we got that photo. I've been at BCG. I actually did my summer internship there in 1998, full-time from 99, in DC, but I've also been in the Atlanta office, London, Madrid, Warsaw, and probably one or two others that I've forgotten. Did my undergrad just down the road at GW. Goofed off too much in high school, couldn't get into Georgetown. I made up for it a little bit. MBA at HBS. Was actually just saw your dean, and we overlapped there at the same time. Most of my focus is retail and associated consumer goods. Do a little bit of travel, do some hotel stuff. Strategy, I led the omni-channel topic for the firm for 6 or 7 years. A lot of merchandising, store operations, org, and candidly anything else you'll pay me for. And I've worked in every continent other than Antarctica. So the penguins aren't big buyers, but made a way to tick through all the others. Mostly North America these days. I'm not sure what happened to my slide format. Previous experience, we'll start at the beginning. I was a paper boy. I cut grasses, removed snow. Got my first start at Dairy Queen. So $3.35 an hour at 14. So, you got to rise up from somewhere. Worked at the BMW dealership. Yeah, it was fun. Merrill Lynch, Accenture, co-founded a startup. Small problem was I stepped out the year before it got sold for close to $1 billion, but oh well. I've got good friends with good vacation homes, and I got a nice check. They got a larger check, but still fun. And then I came to BCG, and the reason I came to BCG, honestly, and I stepped out of the startup, was I had great fun at the first 6 months of the startup, and everyone says startups are really exciting and energizing, I was bored because we had the idea figured out. We were just going to execute on it for the next 5 years, and we're going to do the same thing day in, day out with great intensity, but I wanted to go figure out the next thing. And I said, where can I go figure out the next thing over and over and over again? And I remembered my summer at BCG, and I was like, wow, we did that every 3 or 4 months. 16 years later, that's what I'm still doing. Still gets me up every morning, often on a plane every morning, but is something I find energizing. So, comments, questions, heckle? So, consulting, where are we at today? You know, about every 5 years, people say consulting is dead. You know, they wrote that when I was in business school. You know, that skills have gone out into the broader workforce, that the consulting firms have grown, there's not that much business. I have a slightly different point of view. Lots going on in the economy. I mean, we have the change of the two-speed economy, and that's happening in 2 flavors. One in the U.S., you know, the well-publicized disparity in income growth. And, you know, to step away from the politics of it, it's happening. So while the nation is getting better off in total, it's getting better off for a certain group faster than the others. And that has implications for businesses that used to serve the middle market, and now they have 2 populations pulling in different directions, don't know how to deal with it. And similarly, in the global environment, you have countries going in different directions. We may not be growing like gangbusters, but you have other countries. You still have China that's been growing, that people are worried that their growth may fall to 5 or 6%, but it's growing at 8. You have Europe stagnant. You have other parts of the world like Brazil negative, and the U.S. chugging along at 2 to 3%. So very different environments, and a lot of our clients are doing business across those environments and having to deal with that all at the same time. Despite the recovery, you know, we've been in a recovery for 6 years now. There's a huge amount of uncertainty. If you look at what companies are doing with a lot of their cash, they're still largely doing buybacks. I mean, some of that's driven by low interest rates, and they can finance it, and it's smart financial decisions. A big piece of it is uncertainty, and is there another shoe that's going to drop, and should I invest, and where should I invest, and how do I grow given some of the economic factors out there. So a lot of folks they've done a lot of cost cutting, and they say, we're in the downturn, we've got to do cost cutting, we've done that. A bunch of that, you know, there's still more stuff to do there, but they're like, okay, what's next? And they don't know what to do. Our governments aren't in a better place. You know, we may have stopped talking about the national debt, but we still have the 3rd or 4th highest debt to GDP ratio in this country. We may have put a Band-Aid on Greece for the day, but, you know, we haven't solved anything there. We haven't solved the issues in Italy or Spain. And in the lesser developed world, plenty of issues going on there that aren't being dealt with by the governments. Nonprofits are challenged. They're doing a little bit better than they were a couple years ago. Some of the donations have come back, but they're helping with some of the questions that government is not able to deal with or not willing to deal with. But they're still challenged on getting their donor base up. And also from a management perspective, many of you I'm sure have worked at nonprofits. There's lots of challenges they get a lot of well-meaning people who are interested in the field. They generally don't attract I want to be a really good manager and run a tight ship. I'm sure they're there, but it's not the typical profile of the folks that they're attracting. Technology, massive change. I was talking with one of my partners who was saying, yes, you did the online strategy for such and such a retailer. You know, what can we learn from that? And I pointed out to them that why it was 8 years ago, Facebook wasn't available to the public, and the smartphone, at least the iPhone, hadn't been rolled out yet. I mean, the world is moving at an amazing pace. Mobile usage will actually cross digital usage, or has this year. How many times do you guys check your smartphones a day? Any guess? Average American's 160 times a day. So, you know, this thing is like stuck to our hips, and, you know, you have more information than the entire computing power in the world in like 1960 something on your phone. So that has fundamental changes for how we shop, how we date, how we wake up in the morning, how we exercise. I won't get into the dating stuff. I'll leave that all to you. But and your app of choice. But, you know, this is actually changing business in a whole lot of different ways. Some it's business opportunities, some there's organizational questions. I mean, just driving in the morning, hearing about at Metro Control Center, how many people are on their iPhones while they're supposed to be actually making the trains not run into each other. Small details, but how do you get your workforce who grew up texting the whole time to stop and do their jobs? Interesting questions. Organizations aren't set up to handle this. If you think about how the organization has evolved, a lot of it is still based on theories from the early 1900s of very siloed functions that are optimized to do exactly what they do efficiently. They are not optimized to change. So it's, you have all the different functions. The functions will vary based on what type of business you're going with. They're typically set up to optimize that function. Their incentives are set up to optimize their function, and it doesn't typically meet till the CEO or maybe one of his or her direct reports. So when they're trying to change something to work with the customer or work with suppliers, you have 9, 10 different agendas underway. And one, not even from malice, but just from, I have my plan, I know what I'm supposed to do, I'm going to work on that, or I'm going to get my butt kicked from my boss. So they're intelligently responding to incentives, but they're not set up to change. And the pace of all of this is increasing. So, the world ain't slowing down, as the song goes, but this is going faster and faster and faster, and this organization that's not set up to adapt, lots of papers on it, lots of things about the nimble organization, adaptive advantage we've written, simplicity, all these things. We're starting to play with it, but if you look at organizational structures, they haven't fundamentally changed, and they're not better equipped to adapt to that. The good news is all of it makes a great time to be a consultant. Because when they have really difficult problems, they can't figure it out themselves, they call us. I think many of my clients like me. Some like me a lot. They don't like paying us large sums of money, but when they have all these changes and they need help, they're willing to pick up the phone and do it. And when they call us, we call you, because we need you guys to do this work. So it's a good time to be a consultant. I see no end to the demand for consultants going forward, so it should be very good for all of your job prospects. And I think there's been shifts in who's growing and who's winning and who's not, but really, really good time to be a consultant. Someone will write an article this year or next that says consulting is dead, and they're full of it. But so you guys all believe consulting will continue at least till you graduate? Okay, good. So if consulting is going to continue and you guys are thinking about pursuing a career in consulting, spend a few minutes on just what do I think it takes to be successful in it. And I'm not checking email, I just don't wear a watch. So making sure I don't go over too badly. My recruiting friends would probably cringe, because I will tell you what I think versus the canned speech. I believe this, I know this is true for BCG. I believe this is true for our major competitors. Have some friends there, and we've chatted about this. So, but take this as one person's opinion, not BCG's canned answer. If any of you know BCG well, we're a bunch of very independent partners, so we're very willing to disagree with each other. I think that's part of our strength. But so these are mine. Start strong. This may seem obvious, but I think even more in consulting than any other business, it is a reputation business. So you have some folks who come in, and our recruiting folks say, we're going to give you the best training available. You're going to learn. It's an extension of your MBA. You're going to learn a ton. All of that's true. I think there's no better place to learn than BCG. But you're not there just to learn. There are clients paying $500, $600 an hour for you. They're very happy for you to be developed. That's actually not why they're paying us. They want you to deliver some value, right? And that starts the day you get there. The other piece is consulting more than anywhere else, at least the way we do it, is a relationship business. When you come to BCG and you go, who's your boss? I still don't know who my boss is, or I don't have one, and I haven't had one for 16 years. It's a very market-driven place. Supply and demand, I sell a project, I need staff. What staff do I go for? The one with the best reputation. What staff do I get? That depends on how my reputation is. If you kick ass on your first case, you will have partners lining up and begging you to work for them. It's a nice thing. It's kind of the inverted pyramid, because we actually need you more than you need us. If you do less well on your first case, you'll have the phone ringing a little bit less. You'll have fewer folks to choose from. You may not get to choose the best partner or the best principal running the best case that you're most interested in. So, do you want to start on the virtuous cycle or the vicious cycle? And it's not, I don't want to overly make like your first case will, make you or break you, but success breeds success. I mean, it's true in sports. There's been studies on it of, golfers and who makes the cut and who doesn't has a huge influence one space off on who makes the cut in the next round. Because some of it's in your head, but the other piece is in your reputation. If you can choose the best projects and the teams, the senior teams that are the ones that are the best at mentoring people, it helps your career along. So, day one, there are really smart folks who sometimes come in and their posture's a little bit too laid back. I'm here to learn. I'm not sure what I want to do yet. All that's true. I'm not sure what I want to do yet, and I've been here for 16 years. But at the same time, fake it. Pretend that you're fully engaged. Drive some value. You knock the ball out of the park on the first case. Make sense? And do that in your summer too, helps. Okay. Second is keep an open mind. When I came in and I came out of my sort of technology internet startup, Joe Davis, who is the head of our office, said, "Hey, do you want to work on this retail case with me?" I said, "No. I want to do tech or maybe private equity, and I want to do the cool stuff, and you guys can redesign store back rooms yourself, and that'll be fun." So Joe, being a pretty nice guy, he let me go off and play. Then I transferred to London during the tech crisis. Tech dried up. I pivoted. I did pharma. That was cool. It was a good experience. I figured out pharma was a little slow for me, taking 10 years to figure out the new drug. I might cure cancer, but I may die of boredom in the meantime. If any of you like healthcare, that's fine. We have $1 billion practice, plenty of my other partners, happy to work with you, but not for me. And then just as a favor to someone, when I came back from London, they said, "Hey, there's personal situation for someone, they need to step off a case. Can you do me a favor and step in and take this one over on a retail case?" And I loved it. And I've been doing retail ever since. So what I actively avoided is what I built my career on. I think the nice piece about consulting is you get to try a bunch of things. I mean, you can't be a dilettante forever. At some point, you've got to focus in on some stuff. But if that's what you can do at consulting, try some stuff. You may say, "Hey, I want to be healthcare, I want to be finance, or I only want to do private equity stuff." Dabble around a little bit, try some stuff. The other piece is skills from cross industries help you. You'll end up with, if you want to have 20 years of experience in one area, well, all your clients have 20 or 30 years experience in one area. It's actually often very useful to bring the insights from other places to them. It's not something that people typically say that, "Oh, we're doing a banking case, we want a bunch of people with banking experience." Well, most banks have branches which are consumer focused, and they end up calling the retail guys because they actually know how to deal with consumers often better than the banks. But the banks know how to do CRM and one-to-one customer stuff better than the retailers. So the exchange back and forth is really useful. So I think more enjoyable. You may find a passion you didn't know about if you're like me, and it's actually better for cross-pollinating ideas between clients and in the firm. Okay, 2 points in, no questions, no heckles, no disagreement. Maybe I'm just being Captain Obvious and you guys know all this. Third piece, and this I didn't get when I came in, people are more important than the project. So, not that everyone at BCG isn't uniformly wonderful. Well, okay, they're not. They're all good, but there's degrees of wonderfulness. And early in my career, it was like when I was saying no to Joe, it was, "No, I want this cool project and this client. Maybe it's in a good city and in a good hotel with a good bar." That may have factored in a little bit. But the piece that I figured out is my best projects and candidly my worst projects had less to do with the content than the people that I was working with. So if you think about consulting is long hours. Anyone who tells you it isn't is probably lying to you. It's a lot of travel, pretty demanding. Who do you want to spend time with for 60, 70, bad weeks, 80 hours a week, right? Who do you want to travel with? Who do you want to be stuck in the Detroit airport with, on a snowy night? And you're like, wow, I had this really cool intellectual project, and I don't like my partner, and I don't like my principal, and they're not really that good at developing people, but I have really cool content. You have to have content that you're at least interested and passionate about. But on margin, if you say pick people or content, I'd pick people every single time. And you think about who are the ones who are going to make you successful, who are going to learn from, who are going to back you. At BCG, to make partner, you actually need another partner to sort of sign his name in, I would say, blood. It's actually in revenue to back you. That says, Eric, if you're not successful, you can take that out of my pay, in effect, the people that I sponsor. So who are the people that you're going to build a relationship with that are going to stand up for you like that is important versus what's the cool project. Now, you probably don't have to get that lined up in your first year, but the mindset of who's going to build your skills, you're almost choosing, at BCG you don't have one boss, but you're almost choosing one for every project. And choose wisely is what I would say. Fourth is build a broad base of skills. A lot of folks that come into consulting, and candidly part of what we test for in the case interviews and when we look at your resumes, are analytic skills. So you get the quant jocks coming in, and that's great. We need them. We need smart skills. We get terabytes of data. Analyzing that is all good fun. But we evaluate people on 6 different dimensions. And the problem-solving and insight, which is the quant dimension, you can do really well as a consultant, probably nailing that one. And if your communication and presence are a little off, if your relationship management skills aren't great, your project management skills aren't great, well, you're not managing the project yet, it's probably fine. But you will tap out pretty quickly. The ones that really win in our firm are the decathletes, not the sprinters. What are the broad base of skills? And as you're working on cases, it's great to have spikes. It's good to be known for something and to have a super skill. We're not saying you have to be perfectly equal in all, but you have to hit the bar on all of them. And so when you're thinking about what work you're doing, people will gravitate to work they're comfortable with and good at. It's good, so you can get that first start and build a reputation. But after the first case and the second case, what are the things you're not good at? And what are you going to have to develop? And if you want to be in consulting for a long-term career, and you look at, principals level, maybe 4 years out of MBA, partner, so one after that. If you look up at those folks and you say, what do they do that I'm not good at? Well, you have 4 to 7 years to build that. So what are you doing to build that broad set of skills? And I think that's true whether it's in consulting or you end up transitioning to industry. Because if you look at getting to the C-suite, which I'm guessing many in this room aspire to do, those are folks that have a broad set of skills. It's not just, hey, they know one function, they're super good at the quant piece, or conversely, they're very good at managing the projects, but they're a poet when it comes to quant. That's not actually going to work out. You can be very strong at certain things, but there is a bar you've got to hit across the board, and it's much easier to work on that early on than it is later. So if you don't have quant skills and you manage to get a bunch of process cases, or maybe you choose process cases and process roles, and then all of a sudden you have to manage a quant skill, and you have someone doing some really complex analysis, and you're responsible for whether they've done it right or not, and you've never done it, that becomes very hard because you're trying to learn it on the fly and learn it quicker than the brilliant associate who's working for you, but who's not quite as brilliant as they think and has made a few mistakes along the way, but you can't catch them because you don't have modeling skills. As much as you can do to sort of check the boxes around in your early cases, really, really helpful. Okay, I'm going to pick up the pace. The fifth is take a shareholder point of view, and this is something I think a lot of consultants get wrong, and candidly a lot of firms get wrong. A lot of firms, and I will say this is bad consulting, will come in and do the project they are asked to do. Well, Executive X told me to do the project, and I'm going to do the project. The worst I've seen, and I will not name the firm, there were two people working for two consulting partners for the same firm working for a healthcare client, each working for a different executive on the same issue, two reports from the same firm saying the exact opposite thing. Because they were doing the work their client, the individual, said for them to do. Which to me means it's crap consulting because they were just regurgitating what the person asked them to do. Versus take the shareholder point of view. I do not work for the guy who's writing me the check. I work for the shareholder. Some of the best value we've offered to our clients is, that's a great project or it's a great idea. You're asking the wrong question. If you want to do that project, it's cool. It's your choice. You're the management. Hire someone else. But that is the wrong project. Or a friend of mine hired me at a retailer and did not like our conclusion. And he's probably 2 levels below the CEO. And I said, Brian, you can choose not to pay us, but my name's on the report and our logo's on the report, and that's the conclusion because this is what we think is right for the shareholder. Awkward moment. At the end of the day, generated huge amounts of respect within the firm or in the client. But this may sound like it's a partner level thing, turning down things. Actually, it goes down to the consultant level. So you're going to have smart project leaders and principals. They're smart, but they're not, omnipotent. They don't always get it right. And step back. What would you think the shareholders should be doing? Is your project scope wrong? Is your piece of it not right? Is the piece that you're doing great, but you stumble across a more important question while you're there? That is tremendous value add that you weren't actually asked to do. But if you have the mindset of where is there value to be created for the shareholder, you'll create much more value than what the client was looking for, which makes the client happy ultimately, even if it's awkward in between. Second, your teams will love you because you've made their work much easier. Third, you may have helped sell another project. Your partners will like you for that too. And it also makes it more fun. Like, you're not sitting around waiting for orders. You're thinking for yourself. You're thinking from day one, what would the shareholder do? Make sense? You probably won't get that in most of your training. Tied to that is have an opinion. So it's very easy to say, I'm the most junior person in the room. I'll just wait, and I have some concerns, but I'm not going to say it. I mean, one is from an ethics point of view. Maybe if someone had opinion at VW, their stock price wouldn't be in half today and would have voiced it. So I think there is an ethics and a duty to report things that you think are wrong. The second, and candidly why I'm at BCG, is in my summer internship, I was working on a telecom project. And it was a big project for one of the Baby Bells at the time. Anyone remember the Baby Bells? Precursor to Verizon. There was Bell Atlantic, 9X, split up. It's all in the past. But this was before this. They got broken up and then they got put back together. So it was working for one of them. Team of about 20 people. The head of our telecom practice was there. I was summer intern, and doing customer research. So I went out and I'm pretty aggressive. I went to, shopping malls in Atlanta and would buy anyone at lunch who would talk to me for 10 minutes, and I'd ask them about their telecom practices and would they buy messaging put together and voicemail and email, and these were new concepts at the time. And I went to hairdressing places in low-income neighborhoods and bought everyone a haircut, but then I talked to them. So I came back, and Todd Hickson, the head of telecom, was saying, here's how the world is, and people don't buy bundled products, and so on and so forth. And I said, well, Todd, I've been talking about 100 people in the last how many days. I disagree. Here's what I've talked to, and here's how people were thinking about these things. And we kind of argued back and forth for 15 minutes with 20 people watching us. And my principal going, someone please shut up the intern before he pisses off Todd. And Todd kind of abruptly said, all right, we got to move on. Ended the conversation. And I figured, okay, well, I had my say and I lost. And at the end of the conversation, Todd said, Brad, what are you doing for lunch tomorrow? And I said, I don't know, Todd, what do you want me to do for lunch tomorrow? And he said, you're going to see the head of the strategy of our client. You changed my opinion today. Tomorrow you'll change his. And it's ideas matter, particularly at BCG. It's what is the idea? And we don't need to hire your caliber people if you're not going to have opinions. I mean, we can get people offshore to go crunch data. We need people to think. We need them to have opinions. And we actually need them to voice the opinion because, we're not telepathic and we can't figure these things out on our own. So stand up, have an opinion. You don't need to fight for it forever. I don't know if there's any BCGers in the office. David P. is one of my favorite associates. Okay, after 2 hours with fighting with your partner, okay, David, I got your point. There's some point, to move on, but you want to voice that opinion. It will serve you well with clients. And Eric's telling me to move on. Thank you, Eric. Told you I could talk for a while. Teaming is key to your success. I'm going to go speed through these. As brilliant as you all are, we don't get hired for easy problems. We get hired for really tough problems. You need to work with groups to figure these out. If one brilliant person can figure it out, sure, you may have the blinding insight, but at least you're going to need the team to get things done. And that is teaming within whatever consulting firm you end up with and teaming with the clients. I think the best consulting engagements are ones that are woven in with the client all the way through, not, hey, brilliant consultants go off and write a book and come back. Typically, those are the ones that sit on a shelf because they don't have buy-in. You want a team inside your firm and with the clients. Tenacity wins the day. And this may seem obvious, but it wasn't obvious to us. About 6 years ago, 7 years ago, we were looking at what is the profile of people we make partners. And we went back through every partner's reviews, every review they had over time. We're a bunch of geeks, so we did correlations on all the numbers and everything else. The number one skill of being a successful partner, it wasn't your GMAT, it wasn't analytics, it's tenacity. It's who are the people who had hard times? Who are the people who had the tough case? Who are the ones who pushed through? Who are the ones who got a bad review? Who are the ones who were saying that weren't going to make it and dug in and figured it out? Because you're going to have tough times. The biggest thing is, are you, resilient? Are you tenacious? That is actually more important than being smart. It helps to be smart. But being really dumb and tenacious is probably bad because you'll just drive maddeningly in the wrong direction. But, after a base level of smartness, tenacity wins. 9 is build your brand. I mean, this may go back to the piece on getting a quick start. It is a reputation business inside and outside the firm. So what are the things that you can say? One, do the good job. What are the things that you can own? When people go, you know what? You don't call BCG for that. Call Brad. That BCG is a smart firm, but you need Brad Loftus, or you need Shashir Agarwal, or you need Sandeep Chigani, guys I work a lot with. And you are known for being really good at something. That's the piece that people hire people. People hire it based on brand. Brand of the firm is a starting point. Brand of the individual is also important. And that starts at the earliest levels. The earlier you start building that, the better off you are. And you can build that brand. It's not that you have to be tweeting out there your first day and be the expert on LinkedIn. I actually do most of mine behind the scenes. I don't put anything on LinkedIn. I don't tweet. I'm not writing that much because most of it's client stuff. But within the circle of folks that do retail, I built a brand. Within the firm, I built a brand for things. And there's a set of things that people will call me ahead of a lot of other folks for. And that ultimately will build your career and your business. But it's useful to think about that, right? I mean, people just say, well, I do good work, my brand will take care of itself. Your marketing professors may disagree with that. 10 is measure the impact. And this may sound, kind of corny, but if you go back to, depending who you're working for and what kind of work you're on, you may have cost $5,000 that day. With travel expenses, you may be 30 or 40 grand a week. Were you worth it? How do you know? Well, I wrote a few pages. I went to a couple meetings. What value did you add? So every project we do as an overall project, we track and we say, and some are easier to measure than others. Cost out's easier to measure than blue sky strategy and what did the client do versus what did BCG do. It's not that it's perfect, but the more you can measure your impact, one, you get a clue of, are you doing the right things, right? If we didn't have impact, then we can go to the post-mortem why. Did we scope the project wrong? Did I do something wrong in my module? Was I focused on the right or the wrong things? So some of it may be qualitative, but quantitative, if you measure your impact, this is incredibly useful with clients in the longer term of saying, yes, we're really expensive. Yes, this project's going to cost you $10 million. The last $10 million project created $700 million in annual EBIT for you, and you have a 20x multiple, so that's worth $14 billion in share price. Can we stop fighting about $10 million bucks? And usually that cuts off the conversation pretty quick. But the same piece, when you're getting your career review, and you're like, well, how did I do? It's very useful to be like, well, he helped crack the case, the first case, may have been a first-year consultant, did really well, built a relationship with a client that then allowed us to do other work. Client loves them. What are the impacts you have case by case? Some of that is, so that you can get a better review and a better bonus. But some of it is, what didn't you do well? Maybe you don't advertise that. But knowing, I didn't have as much impact, so here's what I need to be doing on the next case. 11, take responsibility for your own career. Everyone you talk to will tell you about how great they're going to do managing your career. We're going to train you, we're going to manage your career, everything will be easy. People will help. I mean, I don't want to say they're lying, but most important is that you manage it yourself. No one cares about your career more than you do, I hope. Or maybe it's nice if you have someone really looking out for you, caring for you. So maybe your significant other cares more than you do. But the piece of, your career advisor, I have advisees, I care about them, I'm meeting with a bunch of them today. I'm doing my best, but I also have 55 other things to do. So I'm not spending all of my time worrying about how Alfonso's doing. I'm spending a portion of my time worrying about how Alfonso's doing. But Alfonso should be more worried about it than me, right? And should be taking more direction than me. He's one of my advisees, so great guy. He's doing well. So, but that's partially because he is driving that. He's building his brand. He's working with his teams. It's great. But I think there's some folks who come back in and it's like, well, the staffers will put me on the right case, and the learning team will make sure I get the learning in. Versus, what am I good at? Am I measuring my impact? Where do I have deficiencies? Where do I want to go? That stuff that should be top of mind in your career or in your mind, and then you're leading those discussions and getting help from all the folks at your firm to do it, but you're not waiting for them to tell you what to do. Okay, let's see, speed round. Keep in touch. A lot of folks think, oh, well, it's the partners who need to network, and the partners need to keep in touch with clients. Well, 16 years later, some of the folks that I worked with as a first-year consultant run the operations for the largest retailers in the world. So it's less useful if I call them 16 years later and say, hey, Josh, how you doing? Oh, you haven't called me in 7 years. And this is a good friend of mine. But if you're keeping in touch and helping people with their career and helping them when you don't need something from them, it's easy as a consultant to be there and help out when you have a project that's going on. Are you helping them out in between? Are there things you're doing on the side 2 years after the project of, hey, John, you did some analysis. Can you help me out? And you say, yeah, I can do something for you on the weekend. Or I can do it for you at night. Or, yeah, let me stop by and do something. That goes a long, long way. And people sometimes feel shy and go, well, there's no real reason for me to call someone. We're all human, right? And, if a friend calls you who you haven't heard from in 3 months or 6 months, is your reaction, it's great to hear from them, or why didn't that jerk call me before? It's typically great to hear from them. So, keep in touch. And keep in touch, it's not being fake. Keep in touch with the people you like. If you think someone's, miserable, I'll censor my language. My Catholicism coming back, I feel like. Pope was just here, I shouldn't swear. But, okay, fine. If you think someone's a miserable prick, don't keep in touch with them. But, if you like them, keep in touch. If there's someone you'd like to do business with, if you're someone you think is a good person, keep in touch. And it will, one, I think it just makes the job more fun. Two, it often comes back in strange ways that you've never thought of. One of Ken Keene, one of the senior partners in the office, started at a liquor client. The liquor client then went to someone who made contact lenses that was in the consumer division of a pharmaceutical client, that then led to him moving to the pharmaceutical division. It's now a $25 million a year client that is in pharma that started from a relationship in liquor. Now, liquor is my favorite pharmaceutical, but most people think of those as separate industries, and wine's in there too. But it's a piece of, I actually find that more rewarding. I think when you're helping someone else out and genuinely helping them, that does more for your enjoyment than about anything else. But it also ends up having very positive benefits in these strange ways years later. Never too early to start. One of your clients may be sitting in this room, probably are actually. And the baker's dozen of the 13th is have fun. I mean, you guys have made it to a great place. I don't think anyone here is going to end up living in a box, unless you have a serious drug problem I don't know about. You're way past the liquor. But the piece is, there's a lot of people who get really, really stressed out about consulting. I don't want to push anyone away from consulting because it's been great to me. I think it's a great profession. But if you get really stressed out every time you get into a case interview and you don't like case interviews, maybe you shouldn't be a consultant, right? It's about having fun. If you enjoy it and you have fun, it's great. If you come to the firm and you have fun for 2 years, or you have fun for 20 years, it's great. If you stop having fun, go do something else. I mean, it's a really interesting world. There's a lot going on. They say once you get past 100,000 in income, you get no real happiness benefit from income. Don't stay for the money. Don't stay for the prestige. Go somewhere you like what you're doing. Have fun doing it, and don't stress out too much. I mean, work hard, do the right thing, and let the chips fall where they may. It's not to say like, hey, just kick back and don't try. But there's some people who get so worked up on, did I get promoted 3 months ahead of this person or not? Cosmic realm of things, it doesn't matter. Do what you like. You'll all do great. I have probably absorbed most of the time. I don't know who's the person to give me the hook if Noam's around, or E over there. But do I have time for questions, or did I suck up all the time?
Unfortunately, we don't.
Well, none of you asked questions, and I told you to. All right. Any last chance before she pulls me off stage? We got one. Winner.
Hi, Charlotte Valentine. I'm first year here. Thanks so much for being here. Quick question. You talked a lot about branding and
Yep.
reputation. I'm wondering what strategic choices you made early in your career to build that brand. When you starting in business school or when you started at BCG?
Yeah, so starting at BCG, there were a couple things that, one that probably made my life a little tough. I was willing to jump in on every screwed up project that needed bailed out. That probably, I was sort of the smoke jumper who came in. So part of how I ended up in retail was Brad will not let a project fail. He will do whatever he needs to do to get it done, back to that tenacity point. So that was the first piece earlier of, so people were like, pull Brad out of your project, he'll get it done. And that made me, kind of any project, at least in the local area or within the Northeast partner group, they were willing to pull me in on, regardless of industry. And then as I started focusing on retail, and this is 2004, I said, I want to be at the time, e-commerce, then multi-channel, then omni-channel guy, and I had a startup in the space. And I started doing work, and on the side said, okay, I'm working on this project, but I'll help people out on the side. And I became, BCG's omni-channel guy. And at first, no one bought the projects. It's a topic that has become pretty important and has become a pretty big piece of my business and an entry point to a lot of clients. So if we get a call on something with omni-channel, I'm one of 3 people in the firm that gets called. And that's something that started 10 years ago, or probably more than 10 years ago for me. So that's the example. Sorry, I had to take at least one question.
No, that's perfect. Thank you so much, Brad.
Thanks, everybody.